Hey there, welcome to Q&A number 2, where I will be answering your questions. And the reason I'm doing another Q&A is because I've just uploaded the first album I ever made onto Spotify. It's called Heimwee en Hoop, which is Dutch for homesick and hopeful. And I made it back in 2013. It's a collection of pieces that I wrote throughout my youth, from 2002 until 2012. So you might be asking, Tim, why are you talking about your own music on your Game Music covers channel? And the reason for that is that most of the music I write is directly inspired by game music. I've received a lot of questions, which is really cool, and I will be answering them one by one. Back in the announcement video I promised some cringy old photos, and Iron Tongue is asking for some more. I've got some really nice cringy old photos from the time I was playing in a metal band. It was called Poet's Cry, and I was like 15 years old, and I was in this band with my best friend. He wrote the lyrics and I wrote the music. We had a lot of fun playing on his keyboard and writing some piano songs, which were really soft piano songs with very loud drums. Only you could make me take a look inside. I try, then I will try. Alec G says, I really like Once and Ella. Oh, well, thank you. The Once is one of my favorites from the album. It's got some slight Zelda vibes. Maybe you'll pick up on it. Alright, Ryan912 asks, what made you get into music? I saw someone playing the piano on television when I was 7, and I said to my parents, well, that doesn't look too hard, I think I'll be able to do that. Then I got a keyboard on loan, and after 2 years I was still playing it, and then we got a cheap second-hand piano that I played on from my 9th until my 20th. Really love playing my own improvisations, but also lots of game music. Yoshi's Island, for example. Game music had been inspiring me, and then I wanted to go to the Conservatory. I ultimately enrolled into the music education side of things. And what was really fun with the music education stuff was that we got to play lots of instruments, like not only the piano but also vocal lessons and singing in the choir and playing drums, playing guitar, composing, just a really broad package of stuff that I'm still using today, so I'm really grateful for that. I had a few bands The bands didn't really work out for me. I started teaching a lot, and then a few years back I stopped teaching a lot to do this channel and work on my own compositions and game music. Well, Moeswagenaar asks, is there a song that you think is related to Zelda music and can be used as an alternative soundtrack for it? So yes, Moes, I think so. I think especially the first track on my album, Blossoms in the Wind, has a kind of a Stables vibe. Stables is... and Blossoms in the Wind is... both have a kind of a folky vibe. Yeah, and maybe some other tracks too. This one, for example, is kind of a mysterious, maybe a Lost Woods kind of music. It's Enchantment. By the way, as you can see, I'm recording this on my grand piano. It's a little bit out of tune because the piano tuner, because of COVID, doesn't tune until COVID's over. So it's kind of wonky, but I really love playing on my grand piano. How did you come to these kinds of video game albums? Asked by Troller. Making an album with game-inspired music, that just came naturally to me. And I could fill another 4 albums with music like this, because game-inspired music just comes automatically for me. Alright, Anna Bolchowitz asks, hi Tim, would you be willing to take a technique question? I stumbled across your Super Mario Bros. 2 overworld theme arrangement and subscribed shortly after. Well, thank you. I'm learning the piece, but have never played ragtimey piano before. Any tips for chordal tremolos? Okay, so there's a few ways you can go about this. You can use your fingers like a quick arpeggio. Well, that's kind of tiring. Something that's easier to do is to just have the shape of the chord in your hand and just roll with your wrist. Have the shape of the chord in your hand and just move your wrist. Moving this back. Dr. River Matt Smith asks, how did you come about game songs for your YouTube channel and other stuff? So I was looking for music that really suited me well and also had an audience. And the Zelda music, Breath of the Wild music, was really was perfect for that. And then I started doing other game music that I loved back in the day when I was younger, and new game music. It just fits my personal style really well. INF Music asks, do you use a notation program to write the notes for your tutorials? Yes, I do. First I used Sibelius, which I learned back in the Conservatory days, but then Sibelius was getting really slow, and they had a interface update that was kind of wonky. So I changed to MuseScore, and MuseScore is working out well for me. The reason why I'm writing down notes is because if I wouldn't do that, I would play the pieces different every time I play them. The notation really is a way for me to write down what I discover and not forget about it, and then be able to reproduce that for a video. It's always nice if I play the right notes for the arrangements I make. General Warned asks, what kind of locale was that Cringy Old Photo taken in? Though low res, looks interesting, hey. Let's see. The location was one of the Conservatory locations in Rotterdam. I think I was singing in a vocal group there for someone's final exam. So I was doing the do 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 la do 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 vocal group stuff. Yeah, it's a really beautiful location in Rotterdam. Ben's Sacred Guardian asks, at what age did you find your interest in music and start to compose your own pieces? I'm just about 18 now, and while I love playing the piano, especially some of your Breath of the Wild stuff, I always struggle to compose anything and always give up. So I also wonder what you do when you find yourself stuck and frustrated, or just in a rut in general. Thanks. For me at least, composing music is much easier than playing music other people have written down. Composing music for me always starts from making a mistake. So I'm trying to play something that exists, like and then I do something wonky, like I did this. The rhythm wasn't right, and then I thought, oh, that rhythm sounds nice, maybe I can... And then I turned the mistake into a small piece of music. So my tip, I think, is be very kind to your mistakes and try to turn your mistakes into something new. Just repeat them, change them, and make something new out of it. And if you have trouble finishing something, you can always use a standard musical form, like a song. A song has an intro, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, a final chorus, and an outro. So that's a form, like something you can put your musical ideas into. Let Fight asks, how long does it usually take to write and compose a song that you've posted? It really depends on what style the music is in. Like when it's just piano stuff, sometimes the composing takes me as long to play it. If I have a certain feeling and I'm in the right mood, I can just play something from left to right that already sounds finished. For example, I have an alternative soundtrack thing. It's called Bird's Call. It's an alternative soundtrack for Rito Village. And I just played it on the piano. It just went naturally for me from A to B, and it was more or less already finished. So that took approximately 3 minutes. And then I went to polish it up and to add some extra instruments and add some whistle and some accordion and some strings. That took me like 6 hours. So sometimes the spark of inspiration is really short and really gives me just about 80% of the music, and then the final 20% takes me hours and hours to do. So the answer is somewhere between 3 minutes and 10 hours. Zelda asks, what's your favorite color? Red? I think red. It may also be green. High-End HKS says, that was a joyful listen. Thank you. What were your main game soundtrack inspirations when creating the album? Do you have any favorite game soundtracks you've yet to cover on the channel? Well, the album was composed between 2002 and 2012. I played lots of Final Fantasy 7 and 8, so those are inspirations. I also still had the Super Nintendo games and Nintendo 64 game soundtracks in my system. It was all just a big pile of inspiration. Super Mario Galaxy obviously is also a big inspiration for me, but also classical music. For example, in this piece. Like there's shades of like romantic piano music in there. I was still studying at the Conservatory at that time, so there's classical music in there as well. I think if you went through the album with a fine-tooth comb, you would find inspirations from all of those games, and probably some I've forgotten. Meeb asks, what inspired you to play the Celtic style of music? A fascination, or maybe the convenience of playing the accordion and tin whistle? Like, I like folky music. I used to play in a folk band, but I played the piano in a folk band, which isn't really a folk instrument. So I started playing the accordion in the band just to have something more folky to play around with. And the accordion just steered me into the direction of more folky music, like ball folk, which is like French folk music, and more the Scottish Irish side of things. And then I got a tin whistle for my birthday, and the rest is history. So it's I think it's a combination. So it's both. There is an interest in me for folky music, but the accordion and the tin whistle and the guitar and the folky tuning just suit me really well. Karine Moussa says, listening to it now, my question is, are any of these songs inspired by a specific person? I'm especially curious about songs titled with a name, but also other arrangements. Thanks for sharing your music with us. Yes, there's a few songs with names, like Ella, and there's Leonore, but there's also other tracks which are inspired by persons. Let's see, there's a song called Inseparable. That's the oldest song actually on the album. You can also hear it. It has a kind of a childish simplicity, I think. I wrote that one back in 2002 when I was 14 in the classroom where we had music lessons, and I was secretly playing my own stuff on a keyboard with headphones on. So that one's not based on a person, it's more based on a situation. Old friends, well obviously that one's based on my old friend, which I had back in the day, which was also in the band with me. Ella is written because one of the people studying with me, the music education stuff, he had children at a very young age. And one of his children was named Ella. I wanted to write a bouncy little piano piece for her. Leonore, that's a more sad story. Leonore was a girl that was in high school with me, and at a certain point she had an accident. And I wrote the piece for her parents. That's a really long answer to Karine's question. So I hope I answered your question. Moving on to Kaylin Weber? Kaylin Weber? I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I probably butchered your name. What's your favorite song from Breath of the Wild and what recording software do you use? Also, congrats on 70k. Thanks, Kaylin. Well, my favorite song from Breath of the Wild is probably still the main theme. I also really love Heteno Village. I'm really hoping that the new game gets announced or released this year, because I'm like aching for some fresh new tunes. Liona Pettijohn asks, where did you get inspiration to start sharing covers of game music on social media? E3 2016. Xylophone asks, which game's music inspired you for the album? Also, how did you learn to play so many instruments? The first question I answered a while back in this video. The second question, how did I learn to play so many instruments? I really love drumming on my knees and drumming everywhere all the time, and it drives everyone crazy around me. So it was time to buy a drum kit at a certain point in my life. That went naturally, and other instruments. Let me tell you a secret. Sometimes the piano bores me. Like, the piano is my main instrument and I love it, and if I would live on a desert island with only one instrument, it would certainly be the piano. But sometimes I just want to do something different. And then I try to pick up a new instrument, like the guitar or the tin whistle. And it mostly starts with fiddling around and sounding awful, but I sometimes hear just a little bit going right. And then I just keep on trying. It also gets easier the more instruments you know. Because you already have the musical insight and you already know how you want to sound, more or less. You already know when something sounds right, and then it's easier to learn an instrument. It's still not easy. I've been playing on that nickel harpa for months and I'm still not entirely happy with how it sounds, but I'm getting there. Erica B asks, can't wait to listen to it. What's your favorite album currently? My favorite music album? I've been listening to lots of Studio Ghibli music lately. Ooh, that's fantastic. Really Zelda-like. Or actually the other way around. Zelda is really Princess Mononoke, Studio Ghibli-like. So I'm kind of cheating, it's not one album, but it's Studio Ghibli's music. Freddie Reed asks, I'm really interested in knowing how you import the music and MIDI from your piano and then make it into a video. It doesn't seem very easy. I'm going to show you the stages of material that I get and then what I do with the material. So first I record the music through my digital piano into Logic, which is my music software, recording software. Then the MIDI file that results goes into Synthesia, which turns it into visuals. I make a screen capture of those visuals, and then I overlay the video capture of my playing with the Synthesia. And I fiddle around a lot until it looks right. Mazeltov asks, what music were you into as a teenager outside of video game music? It was kind of a roller coaster ride. Metal music, like Nightwish and Sonata Arctica. I occasionally still listen to it, but then after that I kind of overcorrected. After I listened to lots of metal, I started listening to George Michael, which is like blue-eyed soul music, totally different. And then I ultimately kind of settled on a very wide range of music. 8-Bit Hero asks, what was your inspiration for the album cover design? Well, back in the day I used to make drawings of emotions and situations. I think this one is support, based on support. Like there's this line which is kind of a burden, but it's supported by this little thingy here which comes out of the ground. This may be something like affection or love. It was kind of experimental stuff. Atlas Entity asks, what's your favorite instrument to play? The piano. Because it's the instrument I'm most comfortable with. I could just do... I could just let my hands do all kinds of stuff and it already works. And then if I add some inspiration, some ideas to that, it works. And with guitar or accordion or whistle, I just have to practice for hours until I'm able to do something right. The piano is most connected to me personally, so if I want to express myself, I do that on the piano. Flair Schnickelman asks, amazing album. Thank you. I'm making my own music as well, and I'm 14 years old. You are a big inspiration. Thanks. Question. What's your procedure of making songs? What step do you start with, and does the order compose a better, more organized song? As I said, some songs take as long to compose as they are when I first play them. So if a piece is 3 minutes long, it takes me 3 minutes to compose. And I'm able to do that because I always try to make a form of the music. Like with game music, there's often like idea 1, which is like a verse, and then idea 2, which is like a chorus, and then that keeps repeating. So that's a very simple form to put your music in. So when I start improvising, I always try to find a form really soon. I try to start repeating stuff, sometimes identically, but sometimes in another key, and that way I can put my ideas into a form really quickly. And I think that's a very effective way of composing. Like when you're starting to write a song, immediately try to think of, okay, what am I playing? Is this going to be repeated later? What does this need? And sometimes I have musical ideas that sometimes I play something and it doesn't work because there's something wrong with the form. Like I have idea A is great and idea B is great, but then I need like somewhere like an idea C in the middle, and I start puzzling around. Like when I'm composing within a program, within a computer program, I also just make blocks of musical ideas and then just shift them around in different orders to see what fits and what has to be repeated when and how many times, etc. So if something doesn't come naturally, which sometimes just happens because we're not always inspired, I try to make it visual like that. So this is a block of music, that's a block of music, put it in a program and start shifting it around. So the step I start with is just start playing, have a musical idea, or try to play something that exists and make mistakes, and then through those mistakes make something new. And if that something new doesn't feel finished yet, I'm going to add a new piece to it and try to combine and put it in an order. I'm all about that form. Yeah, I wrote lots of songs when I was a teenager. Many of the ideas I made back then really have a crystalline simplicity. They're really simple. It's just a very clean musical idea. Something I just played on an evening before I had to go to bed. It still sounds great. So that's funny, like musical skill doesn't always translate to a better musical composition. So even if you're just starting out with an instrument, I think you can write really beautiful music through the limitations you have. Zachary McMahon says, alright Spotify, here we come. And that's the end of my Q&A. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening to my album, I hope you like it. I will be making more albums of original music in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.